Haha, that looks really cute.
Oh, I love it!
Welcome to the Mike Cassidy Photography Podcast.
Thank you, big voice in the sky. My name is Mike Cassidy, and I'm a boudoir photographer from New Jersey, and this is my show. I get to talk to some of the best photographers in the world to find out how they got started, what sparks their creativity, and what hurdles they've had to overcome to get their businesses going. Along the way, we'll probably have a few laughs, but I'm here to have in-depth conversations about all kinds of things you've always wanted to know from the best out there. So stay tuned. You never know what you may learn. Greetings. My name is Michael, and I'm your neighbor. What's going on? The intro to this podcast is very long, isn't it? I have to work on that. I'm going to put it on my to-do list for the fall, see if I can shorten it a little bit. But that's all I got right now. But first, I want to take a moment to thank everybody who's been reaching out and expressing their feedback and giving kind words about the show. I've been getting emails, people contacting me on Instagram. So I want to say thanks. You know, it really makes all this hard work worth it. I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and want to send me a note, you can on Instagram. It's at Mike Cassidy Podcast. And we have some good stuff coming up for the fall. As I mentioned in the last show, I've been recording a bunch of episodes, all kinds of different stuff. You know, it's about the people. So those will be coming out over the next couple of months, and it's fun. So, you know, what's been going on with me? Well, I guess it's welcome to fall time, and just when I thought it was safe to get away from the beach, they suck me back in. Started having people pop up again for beach sessions, and I wasn't going to do it. But you see, well, how do I say this? I had my eye on this Supreme hoodie for a while, and, you know, fall's coming, want a new hoodie. Yeah, exactly. So I went out and got this Supreme hoodie that I've been wanting for a while, and I figured, oh, well, doing, you know, these sessions will help pay for this hoodie. So I was like, you know, WTF, I'll go do it. So person popped up, another person popped up, another person popped up. And I was like, what's going on? And I managed to schedule like 4 beach sessions over the past like week or 8-9 days or so. I was like, yikes. And I don't know what the heck is going on with this. I thought I was safe. Now I'm back at the beach this week. And yeah, just when the weather here has gone from like 95 degrees, and I think now this weekend's going to be down into the low 60s. So yeah, I'm going to need that hoodie. Well, anyway, I have a little story here for you, what went on this week. And I have pretty good client radar, you know, and I rarely have issues, but this week I had one of those issues. This is a woman that contacted me, and it may have even started longer than 2 weeks ago. I kind of lose track, and she was trying to schedule a maternity beach session, and it was either for her daughter or her daughter-in-law or somebody. It's still not clear to me at this point, because this person was like all over the place, and she was asking me about this session and talking about the maternity, and you know, I answered her questions, and I think she vanished. And then she would pop up and ask me more questions and vanish. And then she started texting me, and then she wouldn't respond, and she was asking me questions, and you wouldn't hear from her. You know, just couldn't string two things together. And finally, we were going back and forth and talking about this session, and I mentioned, you know, she may want makeup, because sometimes when we're doing maternity sessions, people want makeup in the session, and couldn't believe it. She finally said she wanted to book this, and I have already had suspicions about this, but I'll get into that. So contacted Gina. You know, it's good money for her. You know, it doesn't take too long to do, and see if she was available on this day. The woman wanted to do this, and it was already getting close to this date. And just from the way this woman was going, I didn't like what was going on. I had a bad feeling about this. And so, when I book sessions, I always have the bookings expire, as well before the session date, or as much as I can, because if you don't do that, people won't complete them. If you don't have your inquiry expire till the date, people aren't going to do it. And if you have to schedule other people and do whatever, you don't know what's going on, and people will string you out as long as they can. So when you're doing bookings, you have to make your quotes expire, with sufficient time before this session date. And it's never an issue generally. If somebody wants the session, when you send out that booking, they fill it out. 95% of the time it's done quick. Once in a while there's somebody that lags, but most of the time they just fill it out, because they want what they want, and they take it. When someone doesn't complete it, that's my first clue to prepare for these stalling maneuvers. And with this particular woman, I sent it out in plenty of time. You could see she opened it, she kept looking at it, but she just never completed it, and I don't chase after people. I don't have time, and honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it at that point. And I think on Monday night, when I was at the beach finishing up one of these sessions, she started texting me, and she's like, let me know if Thursday is still good, and I'm thinking, well, it's good when you complete and pay your booking, I explained to her, you're cutting it close anyway. It takes a while to reserve a makeup person, and they could be busy, and I don't book anybody till I get my money. I'm not wasting anybody else's time. That's important to me. So, of course, this booking expires and goes unpaid. And then, of course, she's back texting me, whether the next day or about a day and a half. Oh, can you resend this? I was looking at it and I noticed nothing came out of my bank account. It's all these stall tactics. And this is they all go through the same thing. My PayPal's not working, or something's going on. It's always the same thing. And I've seen it dozens of times before. And I know exactly what's going on at this point. It's just this case where these people, you'll run into them, where they will try to stall you to the absolute last second and be completely not committal, and I just happened to be out, I think, and she was texting me to resend, texting me, and I think I was running around and I didn't get a chance to do it till later. And I was thinking, I don't even know if I want to do it. And at this point, I didn't know if Gina, Gina, she was on one of my shows a few episodes ago. I didn't even know if she could still have the time to do this, and talk to her a bit. And she said by this point, she couldn't go out to the site anymore. But if this woman wanted to stop at her place on the way over, she'd do it from her home studio. And, these are the kind of things you can't wait to the last minute, And I was thinking, it's extra money for her. And there was that hoodie. So, I reluctantly went and agreed to resend this. I sent an updated, refreshed booking to this woman, and we were down to maybe a day or two. Even I think it was less before this session. And I told her, I don't even know. I knew I can get the makeup, but I told her, I don't even know if I get a makeup artist at this point, to kind of put some pressure on her to get that completed. And I explained that you need to do this now. And then shockingly, I don't even know what time it was, 9, 10 o'clock or something, the night before the session, I saw she completed it and she paid. And I'm going back and forth with Gina, trying to tell her, oh, this woman paid. And Gina goes to bed early. She's like, oh, I couldn't believe she was up. And she said, give her the contact number. The woman was actually contacting Gina, trying to make arrangements to go over there the next day. And I still know this is not going to go well. It's just one of those things. So sure enough, I think the next day at 8:30, not even 12 hours later, Gina is texting me that this woman wants to cancel the session. And, I didn't get anything at first, but a little while later, she starts texting me, oh, looks like it's going to be cloudy. I don't know if that's good. Is that okay? And something about the expectant mother. And then sure enough, it comes through, the expectant mother wants to cancel the session today. And I'm like, that's great. The portrait agreement, and I put into her permits one reschedule and with sufficient notice, and the day of the session really isn't exactly sufficient notice. And if the client canceled the session, her retainer is not refunded. It's as simple as that. And I took a screenshot of her signature and the initials on that very line of the client contract. It states, should the client cancel, there is no refund, with her initials right next to it. And then she sends back to me, oh, well, maybe we'll do this on Saturday. Maybe we'll do this on Sunday. And I'm like, stop. I don't work like this. I don't operate like this. Talk to this pregnant woman, whoever this person may be, that you don't let me talk to, and have her contact me if you want to schedule a date. I don't need maybe this day, maybe that day, because it would just go on forever. It would just always be another day and another day. And I said no. And finally she was like, all right, we'll just keep the payment. Thank you. And see, the moral here is this isn't about being mean, but I'm driving the bus. Sometimes you have to take control, or people like this will drive you crazy. Because if I didn't do that, she would just constantly always be picking another day. Random, oh, let's reschedule again and reschedule again. Oh, and you let me change the last time. So why can't I do it again? And I don't even think this is like intentional sometimes. There are just these people who have these chaotic lives. They're like human tornadoes, and they're just in this whirlwind vortex, and you just can't get sucked into that. And I just have a low tolerance for that stuff anyway. I'm just too busy. And the point is, when people want to work with you, generally it's very simple. Like I said, you send these out, people book, you do the photos, and it's done. But you will run into people like this, from time to time. So make sure you have clear language in your portrait agreement to help you deal with these situations, because they'll pop up. And then also, be vigilant. When you sense this type of behavior, stop it. Don't let people string you along. Don't let people come up with every excuse. And I know it's exciting when you want to get a booking and stuff like that, but you can't let people do that to you. Because once they start, it's just not gonna stop. And I understand these bookings, and I understand making money, but don't let people control your system and put themselves in the driver's seat. It's your bus. In this case, like I said, it wasn't just me. I was thinking about Gina and making a few dollars there, but and then paying for that hoodie, But you got to cut people loose sometimes. And I don't make a lot of money from these beat sessions, but I have my limits. And great customer experience is important, but you have to keep control. And you can't let these crazy tornado type people run through your business and cause chaos, because they will. Oh well, that's my boring lecture for the week. And today we have a good episode. We had a good chat. And my guest is Allison Conelias, and she's a boudoir photographer from the Boston area. And we had a good talk about her business. And we talked about how she's been growing her business over the past few years. And at the time we were talking, she was just moving into a new workspace, which is super exciting whenever you're getting a new place to work. And a big part of this is really, we were talking about what she's learned during the course of growing her business. And she really shared some great advice. She did. She's interesting because she herself had such a great experience as a boudoir client that motivated her to become a photographer. So, that's a great story. There's a lot to hear in this episode, and it was nice to meet Allison. I had a great time talking to her. So go check out her stuff and do it. Do it. Do it. And as always, I like hearing from you. You can connect with me online on Instagram at Mike Cassidy Podcast, or via my email, mike@thephotographypodcast.show, if you feel like reaching out to me. And thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next show. This podcast and my website both focus on the goal of translating the art and business of photography and making it accessible and understandable to everyone. My goal is to provide the best content in photography for you, the listener. I've assembled a great team of photography guests and experts to make this happen. what I've chosen to do is create a subscriber model for my audience. If you value what I'm doing, you can become a member and support this podcast. In exchange, you'll get benefits over and above what's available for free. It's my goal to ensure that subscribers will definitely get back more than they give. I've created a membership program that brings you far more in-depth content if you want to take your knowledge of photography to the next level. Members will receive episodes with complete, unabridged interviews with our guests. Members will also get exclusive access to listen to and participate in AMA episodes. And there's more. If you would like to learn more now, head over to thephotographypodcast.show/subscribe. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode. I've had enough. I'm done with my beach for the sub now. I have to recover my brain, and it makes you appreciate working with scared women who listen to every single thing that you say. Try dealing with a bunch of like 4-year-olds or 3-year-olds, and then their parents, and you're like, I have it so easy. And the people who have to do that for, I just like, you can have that. So
I actually waited. I'm down in the basement of my house right now because it's the quietest. And my kids are upstairs in bed asleep, so I can have some peace and quiet.
Right,
yes.
right.
Well, Dad's on duty, so.
So no one's going to come in. Mom!
No, hopefully not.
Mom!
We're 2 floors away.
He's touching me. It's hard to find quiet. It's just one of those things that especially when you're on the go all the time, sometimes you just need to sit down and like have a little bit of quiet. I think we have less and less of that. But in general, though, what's going on? Like, is that area is getting back to normal there, or you've been back?
That's a great question.
Working or
yeah. So I feel like life in Boston is not quite back to normal, I'd say, but it's definitely more things are open. People are doing outdoor dining pretty frequently. People are starting to come out of the woodwork from months and months of quarantine. I wouldn't say it's quite back to normal, but there's definitely a lot more people. School is starting, that's kind of the new buzz, is figuring out the plan with school. And I think
that's really, I don't know. People are going to send their kids back, or they're going to stay home, and this is going to be an interesting, and who knew this would still be going on? You think it's a month or two, and then what is it now, like 5 months later or so, and it looks like this is going to be with us for quite a while. So it's
exactly,
people getting stuck home with their kids is not a good thing if they can't go to school, if they're sitting home on laptops again for another couple, because I don't even know what New Jersey's doing. I don't know if some states wanted to send their kids back, but I don't know if I would.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a toss-up right now. I'd say there's a good amount of Massachusetts schools that are going to be remote, but it really depends on the town and the setup, and then parents' choices and all that. But it's definitely an added challenge for working parents to try to balance working and each, different people having jobs, and then also managing childcare. So it's tough.
It's an adventure.
Yeah.
It's a big adventure. Yeah, I guess this is our new world, so
for now,
get used to it.
Yeah.
It was nice staying home in sweats for a while, but you kind of get stir crazy, and you want to get back to work and back to doing what you're doing. But
yeah, it's all fun and games until you put jeans on for the first time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Woo!
Ooh. I'm feeling a little puffy. Everyone's feeling a little puffy from sitting around, and you're like, woo.
Yeah.
I think these pants shrunk.
Yeah,
Not the pants.
Yoga pants have a lot of give. And,
Well, yeah, that's the.
And you put jeans on. Woof.
That top button's a little challenging sometimes, and you're right. Just watching Netflix all the time, and you don't really, you're just eating or sleeping, and you got to keep on the go. Yeah, so got to get out there and get some action just to get back in shape.
Yeah,
but this is a good trend. If this has to go up for a year, it's not a good situation for all of us.
No,
that's for sure. All right. Well, we'll change gears a little bit, Allison, and thanks for coming on tonight. You're welcome. We're talking a little bit about boudoir photography tonight, and get some ideas, and we're going to a couple of different topics as far as client experiences and client motivation and a few other things. And before we get too deep and we're sitting here yapping, take a moment to introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you're doing.
Sure. Well, my name is Allison Conelias. I am from the Boston area. I am Allison Pamela Photography. And I specialize in boudoir photography. I am a huge advocate of self-love and body appreciation. And yeah.
There you go. That's all.
Yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess.
That's fine. And how long have you been doing photos?
Sure. So that's a great question. So my interest in photography actually started at a very young age, and definitely developed through my life. So it's been big in my family. My family is very big into the arts. My mom's a graphic designer. My brother was very into photography for years. And as a kid, my dad used to make me sit down and he would show me old slideshows of his photos from traveling when he was younger. And so I've just
on the
always, yes, on the wall.
Yeah,
exactly. And he just had albums and albums and we were just a big photo family. And so it just kind of stuck with me.
And you enjoyed it.
I did. And it actually my career in photography switched gears when I had my very own boudoir shoot. And I guess my kind of story there is I had a friend, this was after I had my second son. I had a friend reach out to me and try to convince me to do a boudoir shoot. And I was not feeling it at the time. I quickly shut the door on that. I was not feeling confident. I was not feeling sexy, did not want any memorabilia from that time period. So I shut the door on it for a little bit. And then I started warming up to the idea, and I don't know what changed in my head in that moment, but one day I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. And so I found a photographer who I felt like I jammed with. I thought I liked her style, I liked her approach, and I booked it. And I kind of never looked back. I had an amazing experience. And I left my shoot feeling like, wow, this is something for me. I think I want to do this. And then I had my photo reveal and it just solidified that even more. And then I kind of never looked back.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So
yeah.
Did you right then and there decide that you were going to switch and start doing boudoir, or did it come at some point like after that?
Yeah, so it sparked an interest, I would say, a big interest. And then for months, I made all of my friends and family pose for me. That would do it.
That's one of the tougher things, is to find your first people to go. So you force the friends into do, well, yeah, so that's how you got to do it sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they eventually all did it for me, which was great. And then it kind of went from there. I got a couple of referrals from family that just showed friends of theirs photos. And then it just kind of happened a little bit organically. And then I thought, hey, you know what? I don't want to be some crazy lady taking photos of, women in their underwear. I really should make this legit. And then I did. And then, did a ton of boudoir education, photography education. And then it just kind of started on this path. Yeah. And I worked part-time for a while. I just kind of did it as a side hustle. And then eventually it became my full-time gig.
Job. Yeah. And how long did that take? Like when from you started doing till you made that leap? Well,
probably faster than most. And again, I think I would say it was about 8 months.
And that's really fast.
Yeah. And then I pulled the plug and was ready to do it.
You took the leap there. Yeah, because that's a really tough thing for some people. But the great thing about photography is it is a wonderful full-time job. It's a good part-time job. It could be a good side hustle. You could do it every once in a while. It's very adaptable in that way. And some people are just fine doing it on the side or part-time. So yeah, it takes you must have been confident in what was going on to go ahead and. So where were you working at first? In your home?
Yeah. Yeah. So Well, so what kind of made me, I guess, make the leap was the job that I felt like the job I was doing was taking up too much of my attention. And so I felt like if I really wanted to have it happen, I had to invest more time.
Commit.
Yes. I think I could have continued doing it part-time and it would have been fine, but I don't think that it would have grown without that much energy, into it.
It's very hard. Getting started in women's portrait is hard, like you said, not just because there's a learning curve finding people to get started, because not a lot of people want to go, oh, you want me your second person? I'm going to go in and, that doesn't breed a lot of confidence in people. So it is tough getting started for some people, and it takes a while to build up that degree of like accomplishment there to go out and work with women, and because it's tricky, it's tricky getting people and doing all that. It does take practice. So that was good. That was a quick leap there. And then you were bringing people home.
Sorry?
You were bringing people home, like you were working out of your...
No, because I have young kids and I don't really have the setup at home. I was saying right now I'm in my basement actually, and this is probably the best room for it. But the problem is I have one teeny tiny little window. And so the space that I would use, it wasn't what I wanted. So I ended up shooting in a lot of Airbnbs. And then eventually I found a shared photography studio space where it was definitely more cost effective, where I would rent the studio for certain hours.
Just as you needed it.
Just as I needed it.
Gotcha,
exactly. Yeah. And it was much more equipped because it was made for photography specifically. So the natural light was fantastic. It had equipment if I needed to use it. It had a makeup station with the vanity lights. So it had everything you needed. Exactly.
So that worked out really good for you in that case, because you weren't signing a lease and committing yourself.
Right.
Because it could be really expensive. And depending on where you are, like in your area, my area, New York corridor, retail space, any kind of space is like off the charts, like expensive. So that's great if you can find a co-op or a space like that you can rent when you need it. And because you're worried about if things don't, or you're not like committed to something for a couple of years. And so I think that's a smart move to go ahead and do that. And then, so people would come in and then you'd work, in there. And Airbnb, I've heard people, you could do that too. You would rent the place for a day or for a night and have people come in and do the shoots there at homes.
At homes, it was apartments. Some not really houses. It was more apartments. But Airbnb was really tricky. It was a lot more work and a lot more money because the hours that that I typically shoot are during the day. So in order for me to get the hours I needed, I often needed to rent it for 2 nights.
For the turnover time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it ended up costing me way more money, but I was really only there for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
So it just didn't really make a lot of sense unless I booked multiple clients in a day, and that was just too much. So Airbnbs were okay, I think, in a pinch, but definitely finding the shared space was a better choice.
Yeah, and you got to find what works for you and what's available in your area, because that's another whole thing. Is all right, now where am I going to do this? And some people can luck out and they have a spare bedroom, and which is fine. Bringing people in and doing that, but a lot of people don't run right out first and get buildings because of the expense and the commitment there. Yeah, Airbnb, I guess, is an option, and you're too. Renting studio is great too. And I heard you mention me that you're just moving, so you're moving to a new place. Very exciting. Now is this like your own place? Oh my goodness, good for you.
It's very exciting.
It is exciting.
It's I actually ended up finding it's more of an apartment. I was looking at commercial spaces, and you're right. It was just the space that I was getting was very, very small for a lot of money. In my area, I don't know what it's like everywhere.
It varies, but like you said, in our area, New York, Boston, New Jersey, Connecticut, super expensive for any type of lease on not even just like retail storefront, but like office space.
Yeah,
is expensive.
Exactly, and I actually found that what I really would make my life easier in the studio is having a washer dryer and having a fridge and that type of stuff, because when I would go to the shared studio space, I lug this giant, I call it my body bag, and it has all of my sheets and my blankets and pillows and anything that I need for my shoot. And then I would wash it all, even pre-pandemic, I would do that. So it just, and then I also pack a cooler. So I pack, champagne and fruit and chocolate and water and sparkling water and,
Because it's a day. We were just talking about before I hit record. You're out in the morning. Like sometimes I left my house today at a little after 9 and I just got home. Well, like I said, it was at 6:30. So it's a long, to be hauling 30 pounds of laundry back and forth and all that other stuff it's a grueling thing to do that. Yeah. So I'm glad so how far along are you in the new space?
Oh, I haven't moved in yet. I'm moving in this weekend. I know, it's very exciting. And I have my first client there on Wednesday. So a quick turnaround, but again, I'm more of a simplicity type of approach. The lighting was my biggest thing that
it's hard. Yeah. That's a tough thing. You want to, right. So I guess you were looking for specific things and, east or like southern facing or whatever you need to get a good
lighting
light
was number one. The other things were a want, but the lighting was a need. And I figure the rest I can kind of create. And I looked at some different places. They have shared artist spaces, which were also really cool. But it really was not much cheaper than finding an actual studio apartment. And again, like I just, and do it that way.
Yeah, because if it's like a big conglomerate type place, again, it's not going to be inexpensive. You're going to, they're going to lump all kinds of things in there and it probably isn't any cheaper. So now you have to go decorate everything. So you're going to be on a rampage painting and decorating. Are you going to sublease this new space too? Or I haven't even thought about that.
I have a little bit. I've reached out to a couple of their photographer friends that are sometimes they do shoots for like influencers and bloggers that often want like a kitchen space and a couch. And I thought, hey, like, why not offer this up for them? And we know the lighting's really great. It's equipped. I have, box lights. I have a ring light. I have, things that are needed.
They can use.
Yeah. So, nothing on like Airbnb or anything like that. Right. But yeah, I'm open to sharing.
I think it's a good idea as long as it's people that that are going to be, that are going to treat it. I would be a little wary bringing people just in like off the street, because who knows, they're not going to people just lack respect for personal property, like in general. But if it's somebody that you talk to, it's a good idea, I think, to sort of make some of that money, a little bit even towards those bills, because they don't stop coming. No, they don't stop coming every month. So every little bit helps there. Yeah, so that may help you out in the end. And the ultimate, like I know people who would do that. They would like rent it, and then they would be able to re-rent even for a certain percentage of the month, and just from that, they charge these people more than what they were even paying on their own rent. So essentially, it cost them nothing.
Oh,
nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
well,
they had
my plan, but
well, there you go. So they had it calculated. How many rough idea how many times people would want to come in, and then know what the cost is. Divide that just by whatever these people are. So if you have 10, you're renting it out 5-10 times a month. Divide it up to what's your whole rent, and then you work for free. See how that works? It's their problem. Your space. So there's interesting ways you can go ahead and do that. Not everybody's going to do that, especially with your personal, and you got to be there.
Now that it's my new baby, I don't know that I want to share that much.
It's tough. I understand 1,000%. And I was also looking on your notes is just you're not just a boudoir photographer. You're also a client.
I am.
You're also a boudoir client. So you're just out there taking part and jumping in and having someone else shoot your photos. What's your reasoning there to go ahead and do that?
Yeah. So are you talking about my own shoots?
Yeah. So what was the inspiration or the idea behind you going out and doing that regularly now? Just to get ideas from other photographers, or just because you enjoyed it? And it was just for your
honestly, it's just
for fun.
Two things. I guess for fun, but also I feel like, my whole approach is that, or the reason that I feel like I understand a lot of clients' reservations for wanting to book a shoot is because I had those exact same reservations. Right. Even in the beginning when I actually pulled the trigger and booked my own shoot, it was because I wanted to give a gift to my husband. I think a lot of times women feel like we have to justify
A reason.
spending that kind of, money or an investment on ourselves, especially when there's other things. We have bills to pay. We have kids to feed. We have jobs of our own, and to justify spending that kind of money is a hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, it's so worth it. So I think I do that for myself to not only be reminded of some of the clients' reservations, to book their own shoot. And again, when we're booking these, I feel like we're facing our own insecurities, not just with money, but with our own bodies and putting ourselves out there in a vulnerable position. So I do that to remember what it's like to be on the other side of the camera. But also, I love I love the experience.
And then that's to go in and do that. I would see anything wrong with that, and to go out and
not too frequently. I would say my goal was to do it once a year.
But that's still fun. It's so much fun, like I said, and it's a difficult thing to describe to somebody who hasn't been through it, but it's such a boost, when you walk out of there and you feel like, yes, I just accomplished something. Yeah. So I can understand, and you're right, and it comes down to the cost. And depending on where you are, you can't like go throwing out that money several times a year to go ahead and do that. So there has to be some value, and you understand the value from that. So you go ahead and do that. So good for you getting out there and getting some photos done.
Thank you.
I know.
Yes, I actually am doing it with the same photographer that first got me hooked. So she actually lives in Florida now, but she still has a few clients in Boston. So occasionally she'll come back to the area, and I snagged a spot.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So that's okay. That's worked out well for you there to go ahead and do that. I'm going to jump back a little bit here. And when you first started to go in, and you said your friends were coming in, I guess they weren't paying you. This was more just to get started. Correct. And to work through it. And do you remember, because this is always a funny thing, do you remember the first time that you did somebody that was like a paying client, and how bad was that, or what went on that event that you remember, or were you traumatized? And it's like a car accident. You blocked the whole thing out mentally, and it's kind of a blur that you don't even remember.
No, actually nothing bad happened, but I remember that I felt really nervous that everything was not going to go perfectly. At that point, I wasn't nervous about shooting, because at that point I've shot a lot of friends and family. So I wasn't unfamiliar with posing or, anything, with my photography skills or anything like that. But I was nervous that the Airbnb was going to be locked and we couldn't get in, or the makeup artist, was
going to be late or not show up. Yeah,
like just that things were going to go wrong, or that I was going to forget my camera. That was my biggest fear in the beginning.
Is it in the bag?
I probably looked 10 times just to make sure.
That's normal. Oh, yeah, that's like normal stuff like that, because it's like a big deal going out and doing that. So you made it through, and the pictures were good, and the person was happy, because people think it's so easy, and this is a running theme on this show, because especially now when you go online, and it's mostly women that get involved and not too many men, and it's just I'm going to change lives of people, I'm going to go, and it's almost like they feel you just run out and get a camera, and the next thing you know, you're a pro, and people are going to be knocking your door down, and everything is going to be so simple, and that's usually not the case 1,000% of the time, and everyone's always running into a hurdle here or there, and something that you have to like figure out, or you didn't expect, or nerves, or you rush through a big thing. Is people are like and they rush through a whole session taking a million photos. Oh, I forgot to do this, or I forgot to do that, and so anything that pops in your mind when you were first going that maybe was a little bit of a struggle, and then you had to step back and say, "Woo, all right, I got to go a little bit more slowly and address this or address this."
Yeah, definitely. So a few things. One, I wouldn't say from that first client, but early on, I wasn't sure how to get more paying clients. I think that was probably the biggest hurdle right out of the gate. And my first approach did not go great. I was kind of trying to lure people in, if you will, by giving a big discount, and saying, I'm going to give more of like a package mini session type of approach. And that nobody went for it. I was so disappointed and felt so kind of rejected. I thought, well, wow, I don't understand. Like, who wouldn't want this deal? This is such a great deal. And now looking back, I was like, wow, it really was a deal. Yeah. But what I ended up doing kind of inadvertently was kind of devaluing my work and devaluing the experience of what now my whole client experience is made of. It's not just you show up one day and I take your photos. That's not, what I am about. I'm kind of about the whole process and understanding the motivation behind wanting a shoot in the first place, whatever that may be, whether it is a gift for someone or whether it's a gift for yourself or, remembering a period of your life, whether it's a good period of your life or maybe a time that's very challenging. So I think going back, I was able to take a step back and say, okay, let me go back to my mission and kind of my who I am and what I want to happen. And then I was able to kind of go in a better direction.
And figure it out. Yeah. And it's very hard at first. And this just doesn't apply to like women's photography too. This is any kind of photography, whether you're photographing kids or pets or weddings or, sort of finding out where you fit in or finding out where you want to start is very difficult. And more often than not, people err on the side of being too inexpensive. And two, they're trying to attract people, get some business. And it's very tricky. And there isn't one right answer to that, like I said. And some people have a comfort level charging less. Some people feel that they need to charge more. And the biggest mistake is just trying to do what everybody else is doing,
right,
like around you. Though people will go online and if this person's charging this much, so I must charge this much, or I have to charge less because then they'll come to me because I'll be $10 less than this person. And these things don't work out. And then people do panic. Like suddenly when people aren't knocking at your door, your email inbox isn't full of session requests, people start to second guess themselves. And then they may even drop their prices even more. And then it's like a downward spiral and they don't understand that it takes time. I don't think just putting out some special is going to, especially if you're new,
No, that did not work.
Bringing people in, and then likewise not doing that. I don't think it's just a function of time. And as you mentioned, as your word gets out there about you, or if you can get in a group with some wedding photographers and they may refer you clients and you have to build some kind of a base like that. So how long did that take? Well, you said it was only a couple months.
It was on the faster side. But again, I did a ton of research. I talked to other photographers. Like I'm the type of person that when I put my mind to something, I want to learn everything that I can. I think that's probably one of the good things about me. I have flaws like everybody, but I would say,
you took action.
Yeah, I took action and tried to really understand how, I guess I wanted to take the mind of a person who is the client. And so I went back to, okay, I'm the client first. What made me choose my photographer? And then I think that helped me kind of figure out who I was and what my brand is and what I'm about. And I think then I was able to establish myself, and then the other pieces fell a little bit easier into place when I was trying to force myself into the mold of other people, like you were talking about.
Yeah. And it is hard, and it could take a year. It could take longer than that sometimes for people to figure that out and to find their own kind of gear and do what they do. And sometimes it's quicker for some, sometimes it's a slower start for other people. But you mentioned when you were putting out those first ads or that first offer, where were you doing that through like Facebook or something where you were doing,
I think it was Instagram. Yeah.
Like a sponsored post or something like that.
Post.
Yeah. And Instagram's tricky because I don't know, and this is just my opinion, if that's the best place, because, when Instagram is not necessarily, I don't think, a great place to find new people, because I always use the example, like if you're hungry and you want a pizza, you don't go on Instagram and search for pizza places like sort of by me. You can find, people will search by hashtags, or you can target ads through Facebook, I think, to local areas or find people in a geographic zone. But I wonder what would kick in those ads to show it to somebody. They must have to follow Boudoir tag. I don't know how they find people in that area. So yeah, I don't advertise on Instagram because I was always unsure about how you could So I wonder, if that was just because it was Instagram, and I don't know how their targeting works so great on there.
Yeah, it didn't really work, so I can't speak to that. So I'm with you a little bit there. I do spend a lot of my time on Instagram now. I don't use Facebook as much, but it is on my to-do list to try to get on there a little bit more.
I think Facebook is dead.
You think? Okay, well, that's good to know.
And I don't know. And, there's people who know a lot more about that, about me. And I have a Facebook, business page that's been there for a decade. I don't even know, maybe about that long. And it's one of the, I don't regularly go on there, but it's one of those things where there may be 1,000 people on my Facebook page. And I know I'm going to caveat, but I know there's people who have been using it for years and build up this engagement, but I will post something on there every once in a while. And you come back a day or two later, say like 11 people have seen this out of like 1,000, and I think it's just, because it used to be a great place before they limited the reach. Now it's down to 1 or 2%, because they want to make money. Why? It's like free advertising. So slowly they started to limit that reach when you would post something. And I think if you do have a lot of interaction there, I think that boosts that up, and they start to send it out. And I don't have that. I never put the energy into that. So I don't know if today in 2020 is really where you want to start investing all that energy into Facebook. But opinions vary. And this is, I think, one of those very personal things, because I'm sure you could talk to people who have great success using Facebook. And I know people have communities and their Facebook groups and
groups.
private groups, which I do not have time for. People do that. I'm like, really? Like one more thing in my day? I have to start hosting a group. So that I know that wouldn't be for me, but I know in my case, I don't know if that would be my first, like with a Facebook page, but I guess you have to have it because you need it to run ads. I still run ads. I get a lot of response from ads on Facebook because you can be very granular in who you target and where you target and so forth. So I get tons of traffic from Facebook ads still. Not like a lot of conversions, I don't think, but I think for ads, it's a lot better on Facebook. That's just my opinion. What do I know? What do I know about anything? So that, talking to people is great, because there are people who are experts, and you can find, and people who just tell you how to get in there and how to set up your Facebook, and at some point it's worth experimenting too and see what you get. Because you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can come up with some ads and target around your area and see, target brides, target anniversaries. Yeah. You can target different things like that and get in there and do it. So, but that's a learning process. And so you're still, moving and getting started. But what would you say is something that you're still working on now, or what's one of the focuses that you're looking to learn and grow your business over the next year or so? Oh,
sure. Well, I have very lofty goals for myself. I think the studio and becoming full-time was my biggest goal, since I started. And now that's kind of, I'm at that point where I'm hitting that now. And
now you'll have a place to hide out.
Yes.
So no one can find it. You can hide out. That's a secret hiding place.
Yes. Yes, I'm very excited about that. Especially during this pandemic. And if my kids are home, it gives me,
an escape
a little bit and also I'm one of those people, I'm not very good at working at home. I always I look at the dishes, I look at the laundry, and I just get distracted, where I think having a space dedicated to...
You're in work mode.
You get into work mode.
Right.
But no, I guess my approach is there's always more to learn across the board. And so I actually am signed up already for a posing workshop at the end of September to just continue to see other people's style and see how they have a posing flow. I'm very confident in my poses, but I would love to learn more.
Learn something.
Yeah, exactly. I think I actually was looking into a few different conferences. I think... forget that there was a really big one, I want to say in Arizona, but then it was canceled because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I think once things open back up, I would love to continue I think that's how you get really great. And even the photographers that are my favorite ones, both male and female, the biggest thing that they've always said, or that I've read that resonated with me, is, learn all you can, and there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
So
it's ongoing.
It is.
And then like some people find their particular thing. Ooh, I want to be an expert in this, or ooh, I want to be an expert in this. And then, yeah, that's the great thing about that community is there's a lot of people who share, you know, so you can find someone who really, and they're happy to walk you through or teach you or tell you, like we were talking about a little bit. It's nice to have people that you can bounce ideas off of and get feedback, you know, because for the most part, and I was a guest on the last show, Tanya, we were talking about, you know, trying to get photo feedback online, and it's like a cesspool, you know, like just posting photos to some photo groups. You know, it's less than helpful. So it's really valuable to have some resources as trusted friends or people, you know, that you look for it and they'll give you like honest, useful feedback instead of just like trash that's not going to help anybody. They're just like dragging people down.
I have to say, I feel like the boudoir community in general, or at least everybody that I've reached out to or that's reached out to me, is very helpful and open about having conversations and sharing some of their experience. I know there's a lot of photographers that offer mentoring, but even just a conversation, like I messaged a woman in California, hey, you know, where do you get your albums? I really love them. And they'll send me, you know, what vendor they use. Things like that. And I have a Zoom call set up next week with a woman that we chatted in January. And she's like, wow, things are really going great for you. I'd love to chat with you. And I'm like, sure. You know, I think that's how there's no shortage of women or, you know, clients or, you know, people who are interested. It's not like it's super competitive and there's not enough clients to go around. You know? Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, no, it's not a zero-sum game where you learning is going to take away from somebody else. And I think that's fairly unique that people help each other. But I think you have to be a little careful. And I've talked to people about this. And I was actually going to put this in one of my shows a little bit before, but I deleted it and changed it because I so don't want to be negative. And when you were talking about, you know, mentoring and education, and I think you're smart enough to know, but there's people who are just getting started, and there are people out there who self-proclaim themselves as mentors or educators. I know what you're saying, And I was listening to a show over the weekend because often I'll be sitting here at my desk, like working at night, and I'll put on Spotify or something and play podcasts. And it's not always photography. I'll listen to all kinds of stuff. But in this night, I felt like listening something. So I was just searching for a topic. And I'm not going to say a name because it's not the point. But I came across this show that was tips for getting started in this particular form of photography. And my important tips to start your business. I'm like, I like tips. I'll listen to this. You know, it's always hit play and I'm just like working, and then I just realized that I'm listening to this and it's just like, wah, 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 wah. And so I stopped and I was paying attention, and it was just blah, blah, blah. You ever hear the Peanuts where, you know, back when they're wah, 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 there wasn't real. This is all this was. And so I was clicking through the links on the show to find out, and there was a website, and I went over to this website, which didn't work. And it said like moving or under construction or remodeling. And I was going through, and there was like 2 or 3 kinds of photography mentioned on this website, none of which were the one that this person was offering tips from. And there was an Instagram, and I went to this Instagram, and the person said, you know, coach or educator, but for this type of photography. But all they were like millennial selfie photos, I guess, of this, you know, with the smiling and someone sitting at a laptop with this ridiculous smile on their face. They look like a maniac joker, like that, this kind of thing. And every photo was that. And I'll give the person the benefit of the doubt. And I actually clicked on another show with a really super specific topic. And again, after like 2 or 3 minutes, it was just like, it was non-information. It was like non-advice. And I could tell in a minute that this person really knew nothing about what she was talking about. And all it was like she listened to like business gurus or read a book about, and all she was regurgitating this information. And the whole thing was, I'm hyping you up, you know, and there's this whole like hustle culture thing where these people we're going to grind it out, and I'm your hype person. And but there's no they're not doing anything. You know, they themselves, I couldn't find any level of success or that this person has ever done anything. But yet they put themselves in a position that they're charged or offering this advice to other people, which is always like a curiosity to me. And it's just all this hype stuff. There's actually nothing going on. They're actually not doing anything. or they have no experience.
I think you definitely hit the nail on the head of saying you have to be smart about if you're going to invest, more than time into your education, your education, especially early on. But the stuff that I've done were, I wouldn't say free, all of them free, but there's a lot of resources available, at least to get, if people want to get started.
Exactly.
But I totally agree with you that you have to be smart and make sure that you're getting your advice and your education.
And as someone like you or me, you would probably say, what the hell is this person talking about? It's non-advice. It's nothing. It's just talking without saying anything, literally for 20 minutes. But, somebody who may just come across this and thinking, oh, I want to get involved in this business or something, and is listening to this, it would be the most useless information to this person. And all I can say is like, I wanted to start a podcast to teach football coaches. I was going to be an educator for football. What the hell do I know about that? I could certainly create an Instagram for that, and I could take some ridiculous smiling pictures of me standing on a football field, and I could read a manual about football, but, and spout all these things. But if it ever came down to it and an actual football coach came to me and started asking me technical questions, I'd be like, and they probably know in a moment I didn't know what I was talking about, so you just have to be really and people starting out, be really careful about who you get your advice. And not that this person was ill-intentioned, there was no harm there, but people are in love with this influencer thing. Like they're going to be a rah-rah coach. And, and the one thing that you have to understand is that a coach isn't a cheerleader. It's a very, very different thing than someone who's just, they're going to hype you up. That's not useful to anybody, so especially new people they got to be super careful. And I always worry like, who is getting involved with this person too deep? I think they're really not going to get a lot of value from that. So you have to be careful. And
just have to be smart and do due diligence, make sure that you're, getting your information from a reputable source for sure.
So that's our public service announcement.
PSA
for today.
Not today.
And I'm not negative. I don't want to, it's not about being negative, but you have to be a little careful about who you're following and who you're taking advice from. And there's so many good and very smart people out there. They have to do a little bit of work and make sure, dig in deep and see what they're doing, what their experience is, and not someone that has no experience. Despite all their hype and non-advice, sounds good, but, and I think page full of nothing but like influencer photos would tip most people off that there isn't much going on there. But on to brighter topics here, now that we had our little rant. And you mentioned before that one of the things that you sort of focused on from the beginning was the client experience, which is super important in what we do, being that it is kind of a little bit of an extravagance or a special thing. And so what does that mean to you? And how do you go about making sure people have a great experience when they come out?
Sure. It really starts from the very, very beginning. So I actually used to book clients through email. I would get an inquiry and then I would send them a ton of information through email. And I would say like my booking rate was okay. I think it was more based on luck. Like if I found the person that was definitely ready to book,
it happens right away.
Happen. But a lot of people were like, not so sure. And I couldn't really, it took me a while to figure out, okay, well, why? They were initially interested. And then I realized that the best way is by getting someone on the phone and really talking to them and understanding their motivation for the shoot. Because, and what I realized is that everyone's motivation for the shoot is usually very different. It might be it might be start as a gift. But usually, even when there is a gift, there's some other reason. An
ulterior motive,
exactly.
It's also for that person.
Correct.
But a lot of the times it's for,
Yeah, exactly. So I think, so that first connection starts with that inquiry phone call. So that's before anyone even books with me. I take, I do a complimentary phone call, and it's really, that's when that connection kind of first starts. And it doesn't mean that every single person I talk on the phone with books with me, but that's where that understanding the client motivation and the experience begins. And then from there, we have a pre-shoot consultation. I'm in touch multiple times with them. I make a personalized Pinterest board. We are back and forth on that a few times. I check in with them again before their shoot. I text them the morning of the shoot. I follow up with another email that night with a little teaser photo and something special. And then we do their reveal. So the amount of interaction between me and the client is many, many, many times. And I don't know if that's how everyone does, their work, and it's totally fine if they don't. But I found that this is the best way for me to connect with the clients, and I think it's helpful, really. And
no, you're
because
right.
I think if I understand where they're coming from the day of their shoot, and if they're nervous or for whatever reason, it's going to show up on camera, and they're going to have a better experience feeling confident and comfortable versus feeling unsure and insecure, and that's going to come through in their images. So I think understanding that reason deep down is where it kind of begins, and then the rest of it is just the fun stuff.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And, if you're selling sessions for $50, it may not be a big deal. Right. But as people spend more and more money, these decisions generally don't come quick. Usually they're creeping around for quite a while. It could be a month, could be a year on your website before they're checking you out, your social media out, before they get that to finally contact you. And you'll say, yeah, I've been following you for 2 years now and just reaching out. They want to see what's going on. But yeah, it is very important. And it's tough to get people on the phone now sometimes because people don't want to pick up. And then also, too, I think that's also a great way to weed out the people who really aren't that interested, where they're just kind of, what do you charge? What do you charge?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now, or get people on Zoom or get them on a Google Meet. I really like to see them, face to face, so they can see you and you can make that little bit of a connection. And, all right. So this guy seems like he's okay, or this woman seems like she's okay. And then I think that makes it even a little bit more of a personal connection. It's just finding the time or getting people to do that, because, when people are in the office all day, they got home, they got kids, or they're tired and they're like, oh, now I got to talk to this person. So, but you're right. The people that are motivated to go ahead and do this, they make the time.
They do.
And, and getting in there and talking to them builds that relationship, and they become a little bit more trusting. And it's, people don't always want to ask somebody, and we deal with a lot of people who are not strange is the wrong word, but photo work things you made me bring up that you may not talk to other people about. Like, I want to do photos with this, and it just makes them a little bit more at ease to bring up maybe some things that they wouldn't have otherwise, with somebody else, and you can gain confidence with them. So that's an important step, is to build that relationship. And you could see how much work that is. It's
a lot of work. It definitely is. I think you were right. It kind of narrows in on the people who are the most interested. And I mean, my preference is definitely in person. I think you said that exactly. I guess I'm hoping maybe post-pandemic that when I have a studio, I can offer, if people want to come in person and do, an inquiry conversation, if they want to talk to me and see what I'm about, that's fine.
That's ideal. Yeah. And especially if you're in a metro area where you have a lot of people within a short radius and they can get to you, offer them that option to come into my building, sit down, because what the great thing about that, they can see it before they're getting to see what's going on, sit down with you, get to know, because it's very important. I think that relationship in boudoir photography, because people are so vulnerable in that state. They want to make sure that they're with somebody that's like, okay, this man or this woman is okay to be with, and I'm okay with that. So setting up meetings. I think once you get in there, that would be a great alternative. I don't know how many people would. Yeah, I guess it depends, but I think you have to
having
give
the option,
right.
It's good, to know that if they want to come in, they can, you're not hiding anything. That's the thing. You're saying, hey, come in and meet me, or call me on the phone. I'm happy to chat. And you also mentioned before that they get a chance to know you and see you. And the space, it's a huge thing. And I think I've seen a lot of improvements on my Instagram, actually, because I've been more open and sharing things that I didn't share before. And not because I didn't want to share them. I just didn't know that people really wanted to see it.
Interested.
Yeah. I didn't know, the interest was there. And I think that I've been sharing, especially my studio hunt and the space. And I've been sharing, behind the scenes things a little bit more in shoots. And then also things about my personal life, not a ton, but just little snippets of what's my day like? And this is my dog and my kids and,
Yeah, even on the Instagram stories,
Right,
and,
the
and
stories.
stuff like that, to put little snippets up there.
I don't put it in my
that's,
feed, just in my
That's
stories.
another time thing. Yeah, that's another whole time commitment.
It is.
And I think I'm personally suffering. And how long Instagram's been around? Like 8 years? I am suffering from Instagram burnout too. And I think that as a platform is on the way down a little bit too. I don't think it's hit as hard yet, but I think that is slow. It's past its peak, but there's still tons of people going on there. And you're right. If they can see you walking your dog, it's so much more relatable. Or, oh, the coffee, this is what I'm drinking. That's a big deal. And I'm very bad at that because I just am bad at that. But I think for people who can really make those personal kind of posts and information, it's nothing but a benefit if you can get out there and say, oh, I'm just painting the new thing today. I'm so excited. And I'm having my opening party for my studio. Come down and meet me, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that's a great thing, I think, to do to build up like a following like that. I should take my own advice.
It's time for sure.
I'm just too tired. It's one more thing I don't have time for, but that's super important on there. And then when you have all of those pre-contact touches with the people, you said automated emails that you're sending out, or you're writing everything as far as because some customer management things you can 1 week before the session, 10 days before the session, and get that all in there. Saves a lot of time.
Some of them are definitely automated. But some of them I have templates, and then I go in and tweak them and make them a little bit more personal, just like referencing personal things that we've talked about in the past, or if they shared, it's funny. I actually had a client, it was so great. She sent me a PDF document of every single outfit laid out. But
that's work.
Yeah, but she did it for me, and it was fantastic. She said, well, what do you think? I'm choosing between this and this for outfit number 1. And I said, oh, this is great. So I love that.
It's an experience. It's fun.
Yeah.
And some people really get into it. And I've done that too with video with people. They'll pop on and they'll be showing you the room and the things that they're picking. Should I wear this? And some people do. And other people, you never hear from them that much. Not a peep.
Yeah.
They kind of show up. So as long as you can accommodate someone like that, I think that's fabulous, because it makes them feel like, yeah, this is going to be a big deal. And when people come in, when they're showing up for their session, what's a little bit of your process there when they walk in the door that morning or that afternoon to see you?
Sure. So I have them text me when they arrive. So I go and greet them at the door. And then I do a lot of little personal touches. So I have a little marquee that I put out, and it says
with
welcome
their name on it and stuff. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
And then I have a nice platter, and it has, usually I do some kind of fruit that's seasonal, and then chocolate covered like blueberries, and then I also have like chocolate almonds.
You got a big spread.
I do
the whole
some,
spread going.
a little bit of a spread.
I'm coming to your place for photos.
Yeah, and then I have it next to the hair and makeup, and so and then I have champagne, I have sparkling water, I have still water. Sometimes I'm in my new studio. Actually, got an espresso machine.
Yeah, you can leave all that stuff right there, like you said. You have fridges and stuff like that, so that'll be a lot.
Yeah,
easier
normally I have to cart it.
Haul it in, and then you don't want to leave it there because it ain't going to be there the next time you ship. So that'll make that, but that's really nice. Yeah, and because that's work too, and it's an expense obviously. So that has to be factored in. Okay, so let's pretend I'm your person. I come in and you get me drunk with the.
No, they're mini bottles. They're mini. They're splits.
So I'm drinking many bottles, and I'm getting, and then I guess you have makeup people, and people are getting their hair and makeup done on site there. Would you usually take an hour, 45 minutes for that to go through?
Yeah, I'd say about 45 minutes to an hour. It depends. So sometime in the past, I have a few different makeup and hair artists that are hair and makeup artists that I work with. Some do both hair and makeup, and then sometimes I have a just hair stylist and just makeup person. With the pandemic.
Yeah, not everybody does both.
No, not everyone does both. But I have a few that I work with regularly, and they're fantastic. And I think that's also a very, I don't know if it's an emphasized thing, but at least for me, it's important to me that I find someone that I vibe well with, because this is also someone who's talking to your client the hour leading up to your shoot or to her shoot. And it's very important that they're, having good conversation and making the client feel at ease. And has to kind of flow with your own conversation because you don't want awkward silence, and then the anxiety is just going to continue to build. It's all part of the experience. So
it is.
I think finding someone that you vibe well with and you like their work, obviously. Mine are funny. They think I'm a big pain in the butt because I will say when I want something done a different way, or I want a little bit more eyelash here or there, but they're fantastic. And
yeah, they're the front line when people come in, you know, so and what happens in there is like, is this woman all right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get out of here. You know, so they'll really hear questions like that. Or what goes on? Do people ever not get out of here alive? You know, so they'll be fielding all those questions while you're all going and getting ready. So you're 1,000% right. And finding good makeup, it's like gold. You know, you have to hang on to them and treat them really well. And they do so much for you that you don't even realize at first in that regard. So that's super important too.
I totally agree. My hair and makeup person actually just told me she wants to book a shoot. And so I am super excited because I think that says something. And I think if she's, you know, if someone's sitting in her chair and saying, you know, I'm a little nervous for my shoot, and she's going to say, don't worry, I have my own shoot. Yeah. You know, I had a great experience. And, you know, I think that's great. And I didn't ask her to do it. She, you know, she's like,
I've done that as well. So I've had some women who work for me for years and they're a little awkward, but you think that maybe, you know, one time I can absolutely.
I think it's,
you know,
it's a testament to it. And totally. It's the best referral.
And then, that's an important thing to do, and always take care of that if they ask, because running in, I did this, and from that firsthand experience, they'll know exactly what's going on, because often they may not, because I don't know if they hang around the whole time or they leave once they may just know tangentially from what you're talking about, but if they actually go through that, they can say, oh, what will happen next is this, and then this and this. So it's just, like I said, that calming force. Okay, so I get all you could see my hair done, what's left of it, and my makeup. Yep. And then how do you proceed from there, or what's the next step for me?
Once we're all done, and usually during the hair and makeup conversation, I'm there for at least the first 20 minutes or so. And then once I see okay, the client is comfortable, she's had a little champagne, she's having a snack and some water, then I'll kind of say, okay, well, I'm going to go, get everything together. And so I'll kind of excuse myself, let the hair and makeup person continue their work. And then I will kind of get the set ready. I actually shoot on an air bed. So I make sure that that's all set up with kind of whatever sets that I want. I have kind of like a cowhide rug that I use sometimes. I have.
So you're getting the props
totally
and stuff
laying
ready,
it all out, getting everything going. I also have music always going. I have a pre-shoot playlist, and then I have a shoot playlist, and I only listen to my shoot playlist when I'm actually shooting. So none of the songs get old.
Again, to get you in that mode. Yeah. So it gets you in that place. And how long do you typically say the women are with you, or what's your session length, or how does that process work?
Sure.
There?
So my typical shoot is about hour and a half to 2 hours.
That's not good. Yeah.
I'm I really want to make sure that I get everything that I want. It's usually about 4 outfits, or so. And then I do offer a longer shoot, that's about 3.5 hours. And that's just with more outfit changes. So it's really, if there's a specific amount of, photos or poses or images that a client has in mind, then I'll offer, a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time, but it goes by in a flash.
It goes by really quick.
You don't realize when they say we're going to be here for 2 hours, and the next thing, and it's done. Yes. You feel it, but they don't. Right. It's like it goes by so fast, and that's why I was always curious, and I don't operate that way, but women will be coming for a 30-minute session. I'm like, how the hell could you ever do this in, that would always 30 minutes. I'm just getting started in 30 minutes. But it shouldn't be rushed, I don't feel, because it's that experience. People rewind, and it takes, and you'll attest to this, sometimes it takes people a half an hour or so to kind of get over those nerves and start to enjoy themselves. So what do you find do you have a certain process there, or is it just your personality and when you see them make that change? Because there's definitely a point where I think they go from that anxiety, nerve, excitement thing to, okay, this is really this is really like a fun part for me.
Yeah.
Or a fun time for me.
That's such a great question. The last client that I shot, it was on Monday actually of this week, is a perfect example for that. So she was very nervous. We've had a lot of contact going into it. So there was a lot of conversation leading up to her shoot day, and during her hair and makeup, she seemed very relaxed. Everything was fine. And then as soon as I got her on that airbed, she really tensed up. And I would say it was at least that entire outfit that it just took her a long time to get a little bit more relaxed and
custom. Yeah.
But what I do is I'll often show clients the back of the camera on specific images, and ones where, I think this is such a powerful thing to do for women in that moment where they're feeling super vulnerable and insecure. And you show them how amazing it looks on the camera and remind them that this is a raw image. There's no Photoshop. There's no editing whatsoever. This is how she looks right now. And so I start to do that a little bit more, and then I can actually see her body start to relax, and then she takes direction a little bit easier. She's not really fighting the poses. And then of course I'm like, a goofy me who I always am. And she has a little bit more fun. We change outfits. And then I would say by outfit number 2, she's good to go, or at least this particular one was. And what was really cool that I'm going to share, this client texted me from her car, the 2 minutes that she got to her car after her session, and she said a young man knocked on the window of her car. She rolled down her window with the mask on, and he said, "Hi, I just saw you walk by, and you had such an aura of confidence and positivity. Can I have your number?" And she texted this to me. She said, "I could not believe it." And I was like, what? That's crazy, but so awesome. Like, I don't even know how you make that up. I was like, that was amazing. And who knows, the circumstance, but I just thought it totally captured what this experience can do for a person. Not just with me, I just mean a boudoir experience.
In general, yeah. And it's one of the things that, you start out, and all right, it's just photos, but then you realize the responsibility is a lot more than that. And you're really affecting people, and it's like turning on a switch for some people and just like giving them a boost, and they really do walk out on air. And like I said, that can last. It can last for weeks. It lasts for years. Every time they look at those pictures.
It lasted for me. I turned it into a career.
Yeah, there you go.
I think
you're not just a hair club member.
No.
Now you're the president. You switch to do that. But yeah, that's always an interesting thing, and then not everybody realizes that responsibility or what happens in this, and then they're suddenly like, wow, and you're really in charge there of changing people. So that's always an amazing thing for me. But that transformation are the when people come in very nervous, and sometimes by the end you can't get them out. Can we do one more? Like I think we're good. No, but can I do it? But I think we're okay. And you have to like throw them out at some point. And they really, because I think what it comes down to is, especially with women, and as far as, and it's not with boudoir isn't necessarily about sex, but it's baked into people, this sexuality. And when it comes to women, and men to a degree, but with women, they are restricted by their roles. You're a mom, you're a worker, you're this or you're that, and you have to behave or act in certain ways. When you have kids grabbing on you, you're in that particular role. And there's not a lot of areas or arenas where people can feel free and feel safe to kind of express that without being judged. Because their whole lives, women are told to repress this. You're not supposed to. If you act this way, people will think this or X or Y or Z. So there's a lot of that baked in, or they've been going through their whole lives, so they don't know really if they're in a safe place like that. This is okay, and this is all right to do this here. So I think in a lot of cases that release, it happens there, and I'm like, this is a great thing, and I think that's part of it. As from what I could put together. So that's like a powerful thing too, to make a safe space, to have like judgment-free space. And when you do get a request, because these sessions have a way of going this way. And over the years, the riverbanks of Boudoir really widened. It was a very kind of a, people come in their bra and undies, and, and there was like, lock the doors and hide the neighbors. Someone took a picture in a bra. And now it really, these sessions can go off and swerve, one way or the other. And I was always a very, very conservative type of a person when I worked with, because first of all, I'm just quiet and introverted and very conservative. But I also didn't, when I was working with women, I didn't want them to think I was pushing them. I didn't want in that state, well, go ahead, you do this. So I didn't do that. And, I had a lot of feedback from people. I would talk to them and say, so we wanted things to be a little wilder. We wanted things to be a little wilder, and I ultimately came to that understanding that, it's not about me. This session isn't about me. It's about doing what the women want and how they want to experience that. So I had to change myself a little bit. So, boy, that was a long rambling part to my question. But how do you feel that, or do you notice that when these women come in and they get into that gear, or they start to enjoy themselves, that sometimes they'll pull you aside and they'll be like, Allison, I didn't mention this, but I have these handcuffs in here, or I have this in here, or we wanted to do some shots like that. You find anything like that ever happening where sessions swerve in a little bit of a direction that you weren't expecting?
So yes and no. Usually I would say majority is no, but only because I ask all those questions during my pre-shoot consultation. So that conversation is usually about half an hour long, and it's either in person or Zoom. So we go through, I have a very in-depth series of questions that I ask. Now I do say, in the moment, if something, does occur to you, I do keep that door open for sure. But in general, I like to have an idea of what clients are kind of hoping to get out of it, in if they have a specific prop that they'd like to use. And I also say this is a totally judgment-free zone, like you were saying. I've kind of done the big spectrum here. I have gone to a client's home, and her husband made a room in their basement that's painted red walls, and they have silk sheets, and it's the full, 50 Shades thing. And I went to her house, and she really wanted, and she's a mom, she's a nurse. They have 2 young girls. Her husband is a police officer, and she wanted to have beautiful black and white photos taken for their walls in there. And I thought, sure, that sounds great. So we did, a couple shoot down there. And again, I didn't know what kind of props they wanted to use, but we ended up, using handcuffs. And, I found a way to do it in a tasteful way. And of course, everyone was safe. But then on the flip side, I've also done boudoir where, a woman is literally in the middle of chemotherapy and is doing it probably during one of the most challenging times of her life. And she wore, kind of off the shoulder sweaters the whole time, and didn't really show much skin at all, but it was really powerful and deep in a different way and put her out of her comfort zone. So I feel like there's a huge spectrum, that, and it's really individualized to each client. I don't think that, I guess, I don't know if I'm answering your question with, as far as my style of, if I, I guess I'm open to everything is what.
Yeah, because it's an interesting thing, because if you're shooting people long enough, you'll start to get these inquiries that, and most people live within this area, but you will get things on. I've
gotten a couple. I know what you're talking about.
On the outskirts, and long time ago, like I said, I would just write, it's not my thing, not interested, not my thing, not interested. And I would just not even go down on that road. Like I said, we're living in this area here because that's what boudoir is. That's what I want. It doesn't involve this, or it doesn't really involve this. And like I said, I changed a little bit. Like I said, because I realized, hey, if it makes somebody happy, no one's getting hurt, and I'll have that discussion about what they want to do. And you're right. And the tricky part is trying to figure out how to work some of these things in to make it look, like the first time someone pulls out a handcuffs or something, you're like, all right, what are we going to do? What are we going to do here? Has there ever been anything, though, that you aware? And you don't have to say specific examples where it was something you were like, well, I don't know if that's exactly the direction we want to go in.
I haven't had that, but I have had instances where someone will approach me looking for a session, and give me specifics that I'm just not comfortable with.
Yeah, right from the start. It's just not. Yeah. And let me guess, was it from women or from a guy? Like, do you ever get emails
Mostly
from
guys,
like,
actually.
Yeah.
No, one time a woman, but yes, I would say mostly guys.
I want to get a session for my wife, and she's going to dress up like this, and we want this, this, and this. Yeah, I think you'll start to get those emails. I think I get them probably more because I'm a man, and guys figure, all right, this guy, he understands where I'm coming from, but my brain doesn't even work in that way. So yeah, I was just curious because it's something I think that you will encounter, and it's hard to turn people away, especially sometimes when they're starting. But it comes to that: do I really want to do this? Is this what really Boudoir is about? Or so you figure it out kind of along the way, and you can learn to manage a little bit. But that's a topic for another show, maybe dealing with uncomfortable situations and how to get through them. And last thing we had on our little list here, we were talking about like Instagram a little bit, and you had some tips and talking about growing your Instagram, which we touched on a little bit before. And so what you doing?
Yeah. So I would say around beginning of the summer, I really shifted my approach with Instagram a little bit. And I focused on kind of targeting, like you were talking about, targeting different kind of people and trying to, I guess, get on people's radar. That was, you said this earlier, like the platform itself, it's not as organic as it used to be. It's a lot more, algorithm based. And if you share a post and the post does well, then more people will see it. But that, it's really hard, especially getting started. So you can see I don't have a ton of followers, but when I calculate my engagement rate, it's quite high because the people that are following me are actively following me. They're interested in what I'm doing. So what I did that I find was helpful and attracting people that are interested in what I'm doing, which would benefit everybody, is I would search for specific hashtags. So for example, like Boston engagement, maybe. So I'm looking for, okay, well, let me, put some feelers out. So I would do a search for the hashtag Boston engagement, and then I could see like engagement shoots. And so usually brides are tagged in those photos. And so I would click on it. I'd look at, her Instagram, and then usually hit follow. And then that will put me on her radar. And if it's something, if Boudoir or me is something that she's interested in, she'll follow me back. It's a way to kind of plant seeds with people. And if she doesn't follow me back, that's totally okay too. That means it's not for her. It's not for everybody, but I think it's a great way to kind of organically gain followers who are engaged in what you're doing. And then, like you said, you're planting that seed, and then maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, that person will turn into an inquiry and be like,
yeah, because they're just not ready now. Yeah.
But the interest is there, and curiosity, and, and again, maybe people will unfollow over time, but again, at least people you're attracting the people who you want to attract.
Right. Yeah, that's a good strategy. And again, it takes work to get in there and do that. And, anything usually worthwhile is effort like that. So going in and searching those tags locally and following those brides.
Yeah. Well, that's just one example, but if you were looking for that, whoever your kind of ideal client that you're trying to attract, or Boston mom, or whoever. And like you said, you don't want to pigeonhole anybody. But it's just, if you're looking to get on people's radar, it's a good strategy to use if you're struggling to do that.
Right, because people notice. They'll see, why did this person just follow me, and so forth. And it gives you, and they'll be looking at your profile and checking you out, seeing what's going on.
If it's there, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll check it out later. So it's just a good way to do that. The other thing that I've done a few times, not too frequently, is I will try to reach out to local, I guess, micro influencers, if you will, or influencers, if you think, like local people. Right. And kind of connect with them. And usually they're bloggers and are looking for content. And, it's a great way to reach potential clients or gain, again, a way to gain followers and get on people's radar. Again, not that it's about followers, but just to get yourself out there a little bit more.
Out there. Yeah.
So and then teaming up and offering a shoot. So I've done that in the past, and then we'll team up together and do like some sort of giveaway, or, she'll share a photo and say like, hey, I had this experience and it was really cool. And here's, check her out. And then it's it's kind of everybody wins. It's not, I wouldn't say you're baiting anyone or anything like that. It's really just kind of everybody's working together to create content and, to get leads and all
but
that.
that's what that platform, that's what that's for, networking and reaching out, and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So
it's definitely work.
And,
definitely work.
Not everyone's going to respond to you or so forth. But if you get somebody and they have a couple thousand people, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people, and they put those photos out there and you're getting that value from that, you're not spending a whole bunch of money on putting this thing together or whatever it cost you, and you have some agreement where they're going to post 3 of these photos or 5 of these photos or say something. That's a good way to do that too, especially some local wedding influencer type people which are around there, that cover weddings and into brides and stuff like that. So good tips. I think those are 2 good ideas. Now you gave everybody a lot of homework. Tonight. So and the one tricky thing that I found about Instagram, and then lately I noticed it has changed, but forever, ever, for a year and a half or longer, Instagram was blocking pretty much every boudoir tag.
Yeah.
They were all blocked, permanently blocked. And only lately I noticed that some of them now are unblocked again. So I don't know if they're changing, when they switch to this AI. I think as soon as they recognize a picture of a woman in underwear, unsafe, hide these photos, So I think we're dealing with a lot of that now, which they may be trying to see what the picture is and not showing it to as many people, figuring they know better than anybody else and trying to stop. But that's a fine line. How can they tell boudoir from something that's, inappropriate?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So you're fighting against computer.
It's very tricky. And I've seen that happen to a lot of photographers. And it's very frustrating because there's not anything worse, than having your art called inappropriate, number one.
Right.
And then also it's very hypocritical with some of the other things that are out there. So it's definitely frustrating. Not going to, I haven't had it happen to me yet, but it's probably inevitable at some point.
And it happened to me once or twice where I logged in and you get a message like, I forget what it said, but it's a long warning message. This was inappropriate. And it'll say, you are not allowed to post material of, and it'll list a couple of things. And one of them was like close up of buttocks and it would go on. And this was like a photo that was on my Instagram for years. And it was like a close up picture from behind. And I know it was sitting there and I reposted it again. And the second time I posted it, they automatically took it down. I'm like, and then a day or 2 later, the first one, I got the same message again and it was automatically removed. So I think that it learns, or to spot that photo. And so, it's a tough battle and you have to be safe. And same thing with Facebook. It's very hard to post, especially if you're doing ads, anything boudoir related, because they won't put even the most, innocuous photo, they'll knock it down. And I used to get these funny, and I haven't had this in years, but I used to create Facebook ads. This goes about 5-6 years ago, maybe longer. Just even a headshot of somebody, and you would get, this ad is disapproved, and it would say, you are not allowed to use perfect looking people or ideal looking women in your ads, which was the biggest joke because, I showed it to the woman who was actually in the photo, how women would say, they think you're the ideal person. Like, what are you talking about? And I would show them a screenshot of that message I would get and it was like the biggest laugh because these are just everyday people, in there. So it's tricky to start to deal with some of these platforms, and you're beholden to their rules, and there's nothing you can do. So you got to take advantage of that system while you can and contact those brides and get them coming into you before it's all gone, before you can't anymore.
Yeah.
So I think we did a good job tonight, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. See, this is fun talking to people. Time flies.
It does. I know. I could talk about this all day.
I know, and going on and on and on. And so, we covered a lot of ground tonight, and there's good information for people out there. And just before we get out of here, just let everybody know where they can find you on.
Sure.
Online.
So my website is AllisonPamelaPhotography.com, and my handle on Instagram is AP Boudoir.
There you go. So we did it. Got a lot of good information out there, and thanks for coming on, and say goodbye to everybody, Allison.
Bye, everybody. Happy shooting.
Bye. Thanks.